it takes me right to an explanation of this tool's options IFC, and that way I don't have to find it in the documentation tree. So this explanation of the IFC export basically explains that the sag is this minimum distance. If you're dealing with curved surfaces, saving out to IFC, it needs to be triangulated. So that sag number is basically the minimum distance between any chord and the between any straight edge and the curved surface. So you can see it illustrated here. And the angle is just saying that if your distance, your sag distance, is smaller than any particular piece, like say handrail, this ensures that at minimum it'll create some geometry. So if the handrail were smaller than this sag distance, then all it would give you is a flat. It would just give you a flat surface. But this way, the angle ensures that that you still get a fully three-dimensional exported object. So there's options there, and then there's detailed and surfacic. I'm going to just demonstrate real quickly what that means. Basically, detailed allows you to export solids in your model, and surfacic is just if you want to export surfaces or wires. So if I went back to my digital project and looked at surfacic and click OK, and just like before, I went to Data, IFC Translator, IFC Export, and I'm going to save that as MAR surface. And what it's going to do is going to save out all the same information as we did before, but it's going to save out the metadata that we had before, but only the surface geometry. If we minimize that and go to the file we just created, I'm going to open that up, and you'll see the difference between the files. So the file now has all that data that we saw before, the spaces, the columns, and beams, but the geometry in this case has just saved out this. You see a surface for the slab and the structural wall surfaces, and the center lines for the columns and beams. So it's just saving out the surface and wire information from the model. In general, I would say that you probably would want to stick to the detailed, but in some cases you may want to do the surfacic. It's going to be a smaller file because there's less geometry involved. So if we go back to our tools options, I'm going to switch that back to detailed. And you can also see that I have exports standard property sets and quantities and export custom attribute packages. So any attribute packages that are not standard IFC packages will also get exported out to my IFC model with that checked. So let's say we wanted to export just let's say we just had this level 2 open. How would we go about saving that out as an IFC if we don't want to have this whole file open? So if I right-click that product and I go down to the object name here and open a new window, it's just going to open up that product. But if I go to my IFC data, IFC export, and try and save that as an IFC file, it's going to tell me the current BIM does not have a project package. So what this is saying is that, you know, at minimum for an IFC file, I need a project at the top. And this is something which again, if we go back to the documentation, it's something that's illustrated. If we go to our architecture and structures IFC, there's a link here to project structure, and explains very clearly the basics of what are needed in IFC model. In this case, you need a project. So at the top here, you need a project. You need some kind of spatial structure. So that could be a site, it could be a building, or it could be a building story. And you need, and of course, any elements you want to have the IFC recognize need to be defined as building elements. So it looks like in this case what we're missing is our project. We have in this case a building floor, so that fits the spatial requirement. So what I need to do is just create a new product. And maybe I'll call that MAR Building 1, Zone 1. And I'm gonna go to my insert, in this case, insert existing component, which is over on the right here, in kind of the middle of the toolbar, and select that product I just created. And I want to select that product, which is the MAR Building 1 HL1 Level 2 product. Insert it. And once that's inserted, the last thing I want to do is make sure that that I have the okay, so here it is inserted. So the last thing I want to do is make sure that this product I've created is defined as a project. So I have a very convenient little button here for project. So so just click that, and I already had this project, this product selected, and you can name it whatever you want, and then just click OK. What's important is that it has that project attribute attached. So now it's a project, and if I go back to my IFC export and save that, that's going to have no problem exporting that IFC file out. So this is important to recognize that at the bare minimum you need a project defined at the top. You need some kind of spatial element, which could be a site, could be a building, could be a building story, any one of those. And then of course your building elements need to be defined individually. So what happens if you already have a file you've built and you didn't build it in the architecture and structures workbench? So so you don't have these wall elements and these beams and these columns all defined for IFC automatically. Well, it's actually not that hard to. It's actually very easy and quick to assign the IFC packages, the IFC attributes to your model. So to demonstrate that, I'm going to create a new file. A new part file. And I think I'll call this IFC from existing. So assuming you already have an existing file that you've created,